Have you ever sat there, staring at your phone, reading the same message again and again, trying to understand what changed? He was warm, present, interested, and then suddenly, something shifted. The replies got shorter. The energy felt distant. And now, there's silence. And you start asking yourself, did I say something wrong? Was I too much? Did I care too fast? Or maybe the one that hurts the most, why am I not enough to be chosen consistently? And the truth is, it doesn't just stay in your thoughts. It moves into your body. That tight feeling in your chest, that restlessness, that urge to check your phone. Again, not because you're weak, but because something inside you feels unsafe. And no one really talks about this part. The part where you're not chasing him. You're chasing clarity. Just want to feel okay again. But somehow, the more you try to understand, the more confusing it becomes, and you don't even recognize yourself anymore. Let's slow this down, just for a moment, because what you're feeling right now, it actually makes sense. You're not too emotional. You're not overreacting. You're responding to uncertainty. And the human nervous system doesn't do well with uncertainty, especially when connection was once there, and now it feels like it's being taken away. That shift from presence to distance creates something called emotional instability, and your mind tries to fix it. Not because you're desperate, but because your brain is wired to restore safety. To bring things back to how they were. To make sense of what no longer makes sense. So you replay conversations, you analyze tone, you search for clues, trying to find the moment where everything changed. But here's the truth most women never hear. This reaction is not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you felt something real, and your system is trying to protect that. So no, you're not crazy. You're human. Now, here's where everything begins to shift. Most women assume when a man pulls away, it must mean something about them. Their worth, their behavior, their value. But here's the part no one talks about. A man's distance is not always a reflection of your value. Sometimes it's a reflection of his capacity. His emotional availability. His readiness. His ability to stay consistent in connection, because attraction is not just about feelings. It's about emotional stability. And when that stability isn't there, distance happens. Not always intentionally. Not always clearly, but it happens. And here's something deeper. Men often move toward what feels calm, not what feels intense. So when energy shifts and emotional pressure increases, even silently, even unintentionally, it can create a subtle sense of overwhelm. Not because you did something wrong, but because the dynamic changed. And instead of communicating that clearly, some men just pull away, not to hurt you, but because they don't know how to stay. And this is where confusion begins, because you're still showing up, still feeling, still trying to connect, and he's disappearing. So your mind fills in the blanks. With doubt, with fear, with self-blame. But the truth is, this was never about you being less. It was about him being unable to meet you fully. And this is usually the moment where everything starts to go in the wrong direction. Not because you don't care, but because you care deeply. So you try to fix it. You become softer, more understanding, more available. You give more space, but also more energy. You try to show him that you're safe, that you're worth staying for. But here's the quiet truth. The more you try to fix a disconnection, the more you step out of your own center, and people can feel that. Not through your words, but through your energy. Because when you're grounded, there's a calm presence. But when you're afraid, there's a subtle reaching, a quiet hope that he'll come back. If you just do this right dot, and here's where most women don't realize, that shift from grounded to seeking changes the entire dynamic dot, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're no longer standing in your own stability. And emotional attraction doesn't grow from pressure, that it grows from space, not from ease, from knowing that you are not trying to hold something together. You are simply being dot. So when chasing begins, even in the smallest ways, respect doesn't deepen dot, it quietly fades. Now let's look at something differently. That silence you've been fearing. What if it's not rejection? What if it's information? Because silence reveals things words never will dot. It shows consistency, that it shows effort, that it shows intention, or the lack of it dot. And instead of asking, why is he not responding? A different question begins to rise. Is this the kind of presence I feel safe in? Because here's the shift. Silence is not something you chase dot. It's something you observe. Without panic dot, without urgency dot, just awareness. And most women don't realize this. The moment you stop reacting to silence, you step into a different kind of power. Not loud dot, not forceful, but deeply grounded dot, because now you're not trying to be chosen. You're deciding what feels aligned dot, and that changes everything. There's a very quiet line between giving and losing yourself, and it doesn't always feel obvious because it starts with kindness dot, with openness dot, with genuine care. You want to show up fully. You want to be understood. You want to build something real, but slowly that giving turns into overgiving. You start adjusting dot, waiting dot, accepting less than what you actually need, not because you don't see it, but because you're hoping it will change. And here's the part that's hard to admit. When someone receives consistent access without consistent effort, something shifts, not always consciously, but energetically, because value is not created through how much you give dot. It's revealed through what you allow dot. And when your presence becomes constantly available, without being met, it slowly teaches someone that your standards are flexible, that your needs can wait. And that's not because you're not valuable dot. It's because you've stopped protecting that value. And this is where self-respect quietly fades, not in one big moment, but in small, repeated compromises dot. So now the question becomes, what matters more? The connection, or your alignment within it? Because attachment often makes you hold on, even when something feels off, even when your intuition is speaking softly, trying to get your attention. But standards, they do something different. They don't demand dot, they don't chase. They simply exist dot, quietly dot, clearly dot, and they say, this is what feels safe to me. This is what I'm available for. And if that's not met, there's no argument dot, no convincing dot, just distance dot, not as punishment, but as self-respect. And most women don't realize this. Walking away doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence, like peace dot, like no longer trying to explain your worth to someone who cannot hold it. And that kind of energy, it doesn't beg dot, it doesn't prove dot, it simply chooses dot. So what is the real power move when a man pulls away? It's not a message dot, it's not a strategy dot, it's not a perfectly timed response dot, it's nothing reactive dot. It's staying where you are dot, emotionally dot, mentally dot, energetically dot, not collapsing into fear dot, not rising into control dot, just grounded dot, and continuing your life, not as a performance, but as truth, because your world does not stop when someone becomes inconsistent. And if he returns, it's not met with relief dot, it's met with awareness dot, clarity dot, presence dot, and maybe even a quiet question inside you. Does this feel stable now? Not, will he leave again? Because now, you're no longer trying to secure the connection. You're evaluating it. And that shift, that's where respect begins. Not from him first, but from you. At the end of all this, there's something very quiet, but very powerful. That changes inside you. You stop chasing clarity because you no longer need someone else to define your peace. You stop over-explaining yourself because you're no longer trying to be understood by someone who isn't listening. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself in the hope of being chosen, because now you've already chosen yourself. Not loudly, not forcefully, but calmly, completely. And from that place, something shifts in the way you experience connection. You're no longer pulled by inconsistency. You're no longer shaken by distance, because your stability doesn't come from someone staying. It comes from you staying with yourself. And that kind of presence, it doesn't chase. It doesn't fear. It doesn't shrink. It simply exists. With quiet confidence. With self-respect. With peace. And the most beautiful part is, you don't need to convince anyone of your value anymore, because you've finally stopped questioning it yourself. And in that space, there's no anxiety, no confusion, no waiting, just a deep, steady knowing that what is meant to meet you will meet you, without you having to lose yourself to hold it.